The air is a wet cloth. For 3 days, it has clung to their skin, heavy with the rot of the jungle floor and the scent of unseen blossoms. There are 4 of them. A small hunting party of Homo sapiens pushed far beyond the familiar scent of their own clan's smoke. They move with the fluid economy of men who know that a wasted step is wasted food. Kale, the eldest, leads. His eyes, set deep in a weathered face, miss nothing. The tremor of a fern, the glint of moisture on a displaced stone. His son, Terakay, follows close behind, clutching a fire-hardened spear, his youthful eagerness tempered by his father's silent discipline. The other 2, brothers, from the rear, their senses scanning the dense green walls that press in on them. They are ghosts in their own world, masters of a silence that other creatures mistake for emptiness. This is the essence of their survival skills. The prize is a dwarf buffalo, a creature of myth and deep forest shadow. Its tracks a rare promise of life-giving fat and strong hide. The animal has led them into a territory of jagged limestone towers that claw at the sky, a geography of bone-white stone and strangling vines unknown to their ancestors. Here, the world feels older, the silence deeper. After a grueling chase that leaves their muscles screaming, the tracks vanish on a carpet of moss-eaten rock. The buffalo is gone. The sun, a molten coin, begins its slow dip below the canopy. A collective tension settles on a small group of early humans. They are lost. Kale scans the imposing cliffs, his jaw tight. A storm is gathering, the air sickening with a low, electric hum. Shelter is not a comfort. It is a necessity. To be caught in the open when the sky breaks is to risk the chilling rain that can steal a man's strength, inviting predators drawn by the scent of weakness. Terakay, impatient, points his spear toward a dark fissure in the rock face, half swallowed by a curtain of hayne roots. An opening. Kale grunts, a sound of acknowledgement, not agreement. He approaches the fissure with the caution of a man who has survived by assuming the worst. He sniffs the air. No reek of cave bear, no musk of the great cat, only the cold, keen breath of stone. He scrapes a piece of resin from a pouch at his hip, wraps it around the head of a dry branch, and strikes a piece of pyrite against a flint nodule. After a few sharp silacs, a spark catches. He blows it into a flame, the sudden torchlight painting their anxious faces in flickering orange. The entrance is larger than it appeared, a true cavern mouth, as they step across the threshold. The oppressive humidity of the jungle is cut away, replaced by a profound, subterranean chill. The torch illuminates a grand chamber. Water drips from immense, tooth-like spillways hanging from the ceiling, lost in darkness. The sound echoing like a slow, patient heartbeat near the entrance. Scattered on the dusty floor are ancient funnel remains, the bones of long-dead deer and swine, bleached and brittle. But they are old, picked clean by time, not teeth. The cave is empty. It is an unnerving one, perfectly empty. It feels less like a shelter and more like a tomb waiting for its occupants. They make a small, controlled fire near the entrance, a breach of orange against the immense dark. The wood, still damp from the jungle, hisses and spits, casting dancing shadows that make the cavern's features seem to breathe. For a time, they are just hunters at rest. They chew on strips of dried meat from their packs, the silence between them comfortable, familiar. But the cave's vastness presses in. It is not the comforting embrace of a familiar rock shelter, but the hollow gut of a sleeping titan. Kale feels it most, his experience. A library of instincts catalogued over a lifetime of survival has no entry for a place like this. The study of human evolution is not an abstract concept for them. It is the lived, daily struggle for dominance and existence. Restlessness gnaws at him. Leaving an unknown space at your back is a fool's mistake. He takes a burning brand from the fire and gestures for Terakay to follow. The others will guard the entrance. Father and son move away from the firelight, plunging back into the subterranean night. The air grows colder, heavier. They follow the cavern wall, their torch pushing a bubble of light through a gallery of stone columns. It is Tara K who sees it first, a patch of color. High on the wall, a smear of deep red against the pale grey limestone. It is not a natural stain. Kale raises the torch. It is a hand, a handprint, pressed in pigment, but it is impossibly small, no larger than his own palm. Beside it, another, then another, a scattering of tiny hands, reaching out from the rock. They stare, their breath misting in the torchlight. Children? No, the prints are too well formed, the fingers too slender. These were the hands of adults, but adults of a size they cannot comprehend. The paintings continue, crude but evocative figures of deer and boar, a procession of animals hunted across the stone. The style is alien, unlike the bold, confident lines their own people used to chart their great hunts. This art is delicate, almost fragile. The pigment is ochre, a blood-red earth they know well, but used here with an unnerving subtlety. As their eyes adjust, they see more. On a low ledge below the painting sits a collection of objects. Kale leans in, his face a mask of concentration. Tools, flint blades, scrapers, and points, all exquisitely crafted with a skill he can recognize and respect. But they are miniature. A hand axe that would fit in the palm of a child, a scraper that seems more a toy than a tool for processing hide. Around the ledge, the floor is littered with countless tiny, razor-sharp flakes, the lithic debitage from their creation. This was a workshop. This was a home. The discovery rewrites the silence of the cave. This was not an empty place. It was an abandoned one, the very foundation of their worldview, a cornerstone of anthropology before the word existed. It was shaken. They had always believed they were the only true people. Now, here is evidence of another. The silence is no longer peaceful. It is the sound of an absence. Something happened here. Cal runs a calloused thumb over a tiny flint point. It is not ancient. There is no patina of age, no film of calcite. The edges are still perfect. The people who made this were here recently. Very recently. A low guttural sound escapes Derek K. A mix of awe and fear. Kale silences him with a sharp glance. He picks up one of the miniature flint spearheads. It is a perfect, lethal creation. The work is not primitive. It is just small. His mind, a practical tool honed for hunting and survival, struggles to process the implications. Who were these people? Where did they go? The questions hang in the cold air, unanswerable. He feels a primal urge to retreat, to return to the known world. But a deeper, more dangerous curiosity pulls him forward. The cave is a story, and he finds he must know its end. He gestures with the torch, deeper into the blackness. The main passage continues its descent into the earth's gullet. They move now with a different kind of silence. Not the quiet of hunters, but the hushed reverence of men walking through a burial ground. The air becomes utterly still. The dripping sounds cease. They are in the heart of the mountain. Here, the passage opens into a final, vast chamber. This was the nexus of their lives. A great, blackened circle of ashen charcoal marks the central hearth, cold for many seasons. Around it are sleeping hollows, scooped from the earth and lined with the last, desiccated remnants of moss and animal fur. And in those hollows, they lie. The torchlight washes over the scene, and for a moment, the hunters do not breathe. It is not a chaotic jumble of bones scattered by predators. It is a quiet tableau. In one hollow, a small skeleton is curled on its side, as if in sleep. The delicate curve of the spine, the tiny hands tucked beneath a fragile skull. In another, to lie together, near the hearth, the remains of an elder, the bones thin and brittle. This is the entire clan, a ghost family frozen at the end of their world. Kale, a man who has faced down cave bears and stood his ground against enraged boars, feels a cold dread he has never known. This is a scene his expertise cannot decipher. He approaches the nearest skeleton, his movements slow, deliberate. This is a form of paleontology practiced not with brushes, but with a hunter's instinct. He sees no gnawed bones, no shattered skulls that would speak of violence from beasts. He sees no signs of struggle at all. This is the terror, the profound, silent wrongness of the scene. He rises and his eyes meet Terra-KS. In his son's face, he sees his own horror reflected. A thought, cold and sharp as a flint shard, pierces Kayla's mind. These people, whose entire story is written in these tiny bones and painted hands, were not ancient. The lack of decay, the pristine state of their primitive technology, it all points to a recent end. They were alive when his own clan first pushed into these mountains. They were here when the first plumes of his clan's smoke rose from the valleys below. The silence of this valley, the emptiness of this cave, it wasn't a discovery. It was a consequence. Their arrival in this new world, and this other people's departure from it, are separated by a sliver of time too thin to be a coincidence. This is a new, terrible chapter in their understanding of hominid history. They are not just hunters. They might be inheritors, or usurpers. Kale slowly backs away, pulling a stunned Terra-K with him. They did not find a shelter. They found a grave, and the unsettling possibility is that they, without ever knowing it, were the ones who brought the shovel. They emerge from the cave as the last light of day bleeds from the sky, leaving the world bruised and purple. They do not speak. The four hunters, who entered the valley chasing prey, now walk out of it as men burdened by a secret the world was not meant to keep. They are ghosts haunted by ghosts. Their discovery in that silent cave is a microcosm of a process that unfolded across continents. A story rarely preserved in the grand narrative of prehistoric life. For thousands of years, our direct human ancestors were not alone. The world of 1 million years ago was populated by a diversity of human forms. A branching, chaotic tree of hominids. We were just one of those branches. This encounter, this dawning, horrified realization in the dark cave, is the story of how that tree was pruned, branch by branch, until only we remained. They did not have a word for extinction. They only had the silence that followed. The question that echoes from that cave is not what happened to the little people, but what it did to us, the ones who were left. Does some deep, cellular part of us remember a time when we were not alone? And is our relentless drive to explore the stars just a search for other voices? To finally fill a silence we ourselves helped create? The past is not a foreign country. It is the bedrock beneath our feet, and it is riddled with the caves of those who came before. But what happens when the bones you find are your own?